There's certain pitchers that you put your arm around and they need that pampering. You're the best. You got this. And then there's some other pitchers you get in the face and you're like, throw a freaking strike.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Robert Rivera with Who's On First, the show. We're going to be talking about a certain position, as you can tell by my background, first baseman, third base, catcher. There you go, you got it. We have Ray on, Ray Mota. He is a catcher instructor. He's going to give us some tips today. So Ray, introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's Ray Mota, and they call it tools of ignorance, first of all, Robert, right? For a reason.
That's the equipment.
You got to be crazy to get back there and a guy throwing 97 and you have to get pride out of blocking that ball. So there's a reason. And you're always wearing a mask, right? So it's a selfless act where no one notices who you are until you mess up usually. So, but yeah, a little bit about myself. I was a catcher all my life. Actually, I still catch every now and then and stuff like that. So I've been the last, I would say 14 years, I've been volunteering, helping out at some of the high schools and developing catchers. And I also run a free clinic that we developed called No Such Thing as a Wild Pitch, right? Where we train catchers, male and female. And over the last, now going on 12 years, we've been able to get 71 scholarships to colleges. And the interesting thing also, I've coached pro ball as well. And we turn our catchers, and in pro ball was related not just to catching, also the mental side of catching as well too. So
you talk about the mental side of catching, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with the mental side of just baseball in general. I'd be a catcher. I'm biased. I'm sorry, guys. Strengthening that mental side of the game. What tips do you give everybody out there to start doing that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, right? I think the first part is to understand that we work so much on what we call below the shoulders. We work on quickness, strength, arm strength, leg work, exchange, all this other stuff. But there's a large percentage above the shoulders that needs to be worked on in order to be a complete ball player and then a good catcher from that point of view. So the first part that I teach them is to, like you said, prep for the game, right? So that if they have videotape, coordinate with their pitchers so that they know what their pitcher style is. Believe it or not, that preparation helps. So when they go into the game, they're not a surprise, right? The other part is memorizing every single hitter on the team. Where do they stand? What pitches are they missing? Are they creeping up? So that's a part that you become the coach, because you could see, you're the only one that sees the whole field. So you could control. So that's having a sense of leadership. But then in the mental side of it, it's a progressive part that it starts initially with the breathing aspects of it, because there's so many coaches that go out there and tell the catcher, you got to get focused. What does that mean for a young rookie ball guy or someone in college or even in high school or even under high school? Go out there, focus. Some of them tend to squint their eyes or, okay, coach, or they run faster. And there's ways to teach that, right? So the first part is teaching them how to breathe. You don't want elevated, you want it to be somewhere in the middle. So we teach them how to breathe through their stomach. And the way we explain it is to say, usually when you see a marathon runner, if they breathe through their chest, they're not going to run that long, right? They might run 5 or 10 because there's too much pressure. You've got the rib cage here. But when they learn how to breathe through the stomach, lower half, they're able to get more oxygen. When you get more oxygen to the brain, you tend to be more aware and more relaxed. The other thing that does is when you get more oxygen to the brain, you're more relaxed. It helps you with your arm slot, you have more speed, right? So I used to tell people when I used to hit and there was a pitcher on the mound and he'd take a deep breath from his chest, I was like a dog with a bone where I was salivating going, oh boy, his arm slot's going to be slow and I'm going to take him deep or hit it hard somewhere from that point of view. Same thing goes with catching. If you're too stiff and you're not relaxed, your arm slot to throw or to block the ball is going to be slower than normal. So that's the first part. It starts with the breathing, right? The other part is visualizing before the game even starts, right? So we do this thing called pre-game mindset, where you almost catch an inning by yourself. You're mimicking what the pitcher throws, calling the pitches, blocking and all that. These are little things that will help you so that when you go in a game, I could tell if a catcher after that first inning did his pregame or not, right? Because you could say, oh, he's mentally not ready, as opposed to the ones that do the pregame, they've already in their mind caught 3 or 4 innings, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece is when there's stressful situation, you've got the winning run on first. Coach calls timeout, puts the fastest runner on the team. How you try to slow it down, visualize, look at the runner at first, breathe through the stomach, and then visualize making a perfect throw, right? For that piece. So it's a matter that you do it so much in practice that in a game that you're not even thinking about it. It just happens.
You say visualize. We used to call it vision questing. So,
okay, yeah.
you know, before the game, I was watching those guys in batting practice. I was watching the pitchers. I was watching who's the fast guy. Number 12 is a fast guy. Number 14 slow. Number 3, you know, or they, you know, you could see the arm slots and you could see the guys who would get up in the box behind. I was watching them. You know, and everybody's like, you know, what are you doing? Why are you watching the other team? I'm warming up, but I'm watching these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other thing was I would pump my pitcher up. Hey, don't worry about this guy. I got him. You know, concentrate on me. We're throwing the ball. We're playing catch. We're having fun.
Right.
You know, I talked a cousin of mine into a 3-hitter. Yeah, because he finally decided to listen to me one day. So
but I mean, I think you touched on some good points, Robert. The first part is the catcher almost has to be not only the coach, but the psychologist on the field. He's the one that has to understand there's certain pitchers that you put your arm around and they need that pampering. You're the best. You got this. And then there's some other pitchers you get in the face and you're like, throw a freaking strike, because they need that, and that motivates them. Right. So you have to be a psychologist to know when to do that. Like I had some that if they weren't locating, I was throwing a BB right to their knees. And they knew it. They're like, Mota, I get it, Mota. You know what I mean? So as a psychologist, your job is to make them better. Right? Take a good pitcher, turn them to a great pitcher, an average pitcher into a really good pitcher. And if you're doing that, right, this is why catching is the most selfless position out there. Then you're doing all the things that no one even notices. Right. From that point of view, and that psychology, but then also understanding the hitters, right? Like we talked about memorizing, moving up and down. I always say there's opportunities out there. Every time someone gets a triple, I look to pick them off at third.
Yeah.
Because they're amped. They're taking a lead. Look at me, coach. I would say over 50% of the time I have a triple, I'm making a pickoff play and picking that runner off. Yeah. Right. From that point of view. Then I look at the lineup and say, I go into every game saying, I've got 3 pickoffs. Right. Today. I want to make at least 2 of them be out. So I'm not going to throw to just show off the arm. I want them to be outs and stuff. So I look for the 1-2 hitters, right? The 8 and 9 hitters, because they're batting there for a reason. They're the speedsters and stuff. And I look to see, are they going back with their head hanging down? Then I call a pick play. But I always go into every game with that mindset, understanding who's in the lineup, especially if they bring in somebody to pinch run. I'm like, oh boy, those are the best people to pick off. They've been cold in the bench. They want to show their coach their worth, that they're going to steal a base. Pick them off even before they move.
Yeah, that's right. They didn't put them in there to jog around the base.
Right, exactly.
They put them in there because they want that guy's a fast guy, and I'm going to hold them as close as I can, and I'm going to try to gun them down if I can. Now,
exactly.
We talk about the catching, the mental side of it. For me, especially with the coaching, I'm starting to see a lot of managers. There were former catchers. Probably the best managers are out there.
It's true.
Are the catchers. And when you say selfless position, I mean, catchers that are managers that come to mind, Joe Girardi, excellent manager, and Mike Scioscia. Mike Scioscia was an excellent catcher. I remember him trying to get bowled over at home plate, and he stood strong.
The good old days when you get bowled over.
He put a couple of guys on their back as they were coming in. But I'm going to give you a blast from the past, and a guy who I learned a lot from in Orchard Beach in New York, in the Bronx.
Okay. I played in the Liga Puerto Rico, right?
Oh, yeah? All right.
Yeah. I played in the Liga Puerto Rico there. Yeah, so that was right there in that area, and it was a powerhouse league. Manny Ramirez was on the team there. Oh, God, we had so many.
Manny just got another contract, I think, in the Mexico.
Oh, is he? Oh, man.
Well, guess
what? That kid at 15 and 16 can hit.
Yeah,
he can hit.
he can still hit. He
He
was
can
hitting in
still hit,
Japan.
right?
He was hitting
Yeah.
in Japan.
Right.
But Earl Batty, Earl
Hmm.
Batty, blast from the past. He taught me a lot about catching and hitting, but his catching philosophies were positioning yourself properly. He always said, go in front of the plate. You know,
Hmm.
stand in front of the plate. He goes, you don't want to stand on the railroad tracks because when the train comes through, you're
Oh
gonna get
yeah,
run over.
you're gonna get run
He's,
over.
right. He said the easiest way to derail a train is to get in front and hit them from the side. So you're
Right,
going
correct.
back
Yeah,
to
because
tag.
it pushed him away.
Right. What do you think about that philosophy?
I think there's different ways, right? There's the first part when you have enough time. That person's rounding third and stuff, you have a lot of time to position yourself really properly to say, I'm going to leave the plate open because there's new rules now. Now, if you don't give a clear path to the plate, it's automatically safe from that point of view. So the catchers do have to clear the plate, whether they like it or not, unless the ball takes them in that direction or something like that, right? So that's the first part. The other part is you're standing still. There's someone running full speed at you. Usually the physics of that, it's not good for the catchers, right?
Right.
So it used to be, you want to keep your mask on almost because you're going to get an elbow or a foot. That's how it was in the old days, but it still happens today. Look what happened to Buster Posey, stuff. And look what happened to Lucroy when he took the mask off, right? So the first part is I try to change the concept of keeping the mask on, especially because the ball's going to skid really hard, hit you in the face, or there's some dirty ball players there, Robert. I mean, they'll come up with their spikes up or their elbow up. So the first part is I say protect yourself, keep the mask on.
Right.
The other part is the new rule is you have to clear the plate. And then I tell them you have to determine whether you do a two-handed tag or one-handed tag. So two-handed tag is you had enough time to get to that edge of the plate like you talked about. But when you do that, there's this whole concept of what I call selling. And selling it is you go down with one hand, you turn around, immediately show it to the umpire, and then look back to see where that runner's going so you could pick them off and stuff. Because the emotions of the bang bang play usually goes into the catchers if they sell it well, like, yeah, and then get ready to throw. So there's a big part of selling. Now, the one hand is that guy's already halfway to home plate, and that ball's coming at you where if you go with two hands, you're not going to be able to reach him, especially if it's a throw from right field, right? So there you have to go across and then drag and slide across to do that and then sell it, right? From that point of view. And then you have to determine when you do that, do I bring my knee down or not? That's a touchy one because if you're blocked, old days, I could put both my knees in front of the plate. It was legal. I can't do that anymore. Because even today, I've seen some players slide outside baseline because they want to knock the ball out of the catchers, and some umpires and call it. So yeah, determine if it's one hand or two hand. You got to sell it. And I do agree with you. If the person's running across, you push them to the side because that's how you get away from the direct contact with them to get hurt and stuff. I mean, it's a tough position. I tell people this story when I was dating my wife, and I caught this guy, Steve Frascatore, used to throw mid-90s with just a filthy slider. He trusted me enough that anytime he had two strikes, he threw a slider in the dirt, and he trusted me to block that pitch. So I go to this beach party, and I've got black and blue stitching mark all through my legs. And she's like, I thought you were at a baseball game. I'm like, I was. She's like, it looks like you got in a fight. And I'm like, no, I was blocking the ball.
Yeah.
She's like, why are you doing that again? I'm like, don't ask. It's what a catcher does, right? So
right. What are your philosophies on, let's say, the new equipment, all this advancement?
I think a lot of that is related to safety. Back then, I've had, especially like when you face or catching a guy throwing mid-90s, right? You think about a foul tip. In many cases, it seems like that ball accelerates even faster off the bat. And I remember just getting hit in the face where, and back then they didn't know what concussions were. You know what they used to say? Oh, you just got your bell rung. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Here, you rub some dirt on it, or here's some water.
Walk it off. Walk it off.
Right? So I think some of those it's about time that they're coming with better equipment for that piece, because unless you've done the catching and you realize that's like somebody punching you in the face. on those foul tips. So
Yeah.
I think those are major improvement. One regarding the chesting, that's a new rule that came for high school now. You're blocking that ball in the dirt, it hits you in the wrong spot there. It could be some serious damage or injury, cardiac arrest in some cases. Almost all the high schools here, and I think it's NOSCA or something like that, it has to be certified to be able to protect somewhat of the chest. These athletes are getting faster, stronger, they're more, they got better training than we ever had. I don't want to see a catcher get ruined like Buster Posey's career modes got ruined because of some rule wasn't that way because it made sense in the old time and it doesn't make sense today. So I think all the new equipment it's been good for the game. There's some equipment in there that I still think needs to be lighter. I still think the chest protector is too heavy. I still think the shin guards are too heavy. Like I remember when I first got like this titanium mask, it was a one piece. It was brilliant because it was more powerful than a normal mask, but it weighed like a feather. And I felt like I didn't have it. Now we need to see that with the hockey mask because in high school and a lot of college, you're required to wear the hockey mask because of people's backswing don't hit you in the back of the head and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. Little League was big at one point with the throat guard.
Yeah, the throat guard.
Had the throat guard, and you know what? I'll be honest with you. You guys that are catchers, you guys that are thinking about catching, you guys that are recreational catchers, a lot of the equipment that you're putting on, I'm going to tell you, you're wearing it wrong.
Right.
You're wearing it wrong. I mean, I seen guys come up to catch with the shin guards, and the clips are on the inside.
On the inside, they're on the inside.
You know what I mean?
I know.
They got the wrong shin guard on. At the end of the day, sometimes these kids, this is the only baseball they're ever going to play. I don't need a kid with a concussion
to get blown out.
To get blown out right off the bat. You know what I mean?
I even teach, honestly, in part of our clinics, how to tie your shoelaces as a catcher.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning that I say you tie your shoelaces, you take the laces and tuck them in. There was one kid that would just go, yeah. You know what I mean? And never do. And it just happens. Big game, very important game. And the kid was gifted. He got a good arm. He goes to throw the ball and he ends up throwing it center field. He falls on the floor. And what happened was the lace, his other spike got stuck on it and he ripped it and fell apart. And no one could see that except us coaches. And I go, those are the little things that matter, right? So even how to tie your shoelaces, right? So,
Right.
Let's see if I could show you something here.
Okay, what we got?
Let's see here. I don't know if you could see all the masks there.
Okay.
I have masks from all the errors and stuff like that.
That's the evolution. Look at that.
For catching and stuff like that. But like the glove, I never lacked a really heavy glove.
Okay.
I felt it slowed down my quickness. So like with blocking, I always needed to have what I call get the glove there first and let the body follow quickly for that part. Or for a pitcher, sometimes you get pitchers that have a natural movement and they don't know which way he's going to move and stuff. And you got to be quick for that. And the fatigue on your forearm with a heavy glove and stuff like that. So I always liked a lighter glove, and my goal was to catch everything in the pocket.
Yeah, and
if I catch everything in the pocket, didn't matter what kind of glove I had.
Right, and that's the other thing I want to touch on, because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten these two fingers right here, this little palm area, all swollen up. Any tips for that, Ray?
Yeah. There's a few tips, and a lot of this realize that I learned is my brother was just a stud catcher, so he just molded me into being this beast. He would get, I would say, 20 to 30 feet away from me, take a fungo bat, and just start hitting it. If it was I caught it, the thing, I had to block it, and for every ball I let go by, I had to do push-ups. That's why I tell people, that's why I got a big chest. I'm 61. I had to do a lot of push-ups. A lot of push-ups. The tips for this in the pocket, there's progressive drills. Now they even got little pocket guards that you have like 3 fingers to catch the ball like this. What we do with a lot of the kids is we give them a ball and they hold the ball. I should grab a ball there, but they hold the ball here and you toss it to them and they learn how to catch it with the finger like this here. So that becomes progression to learn how to catch it in the pocket all the time. And then once you do a lot of those with the little glove where you take little balls, wiffle ball that they catch, then you progress to a machine and you actually have competition with them, because you could tell by the sound whether they caught it in the pocket or not. And then they've noticed when they catch it in the pocket, they're like, Coach, I didn't even feel anything.
Right.
Didn't even feel anything. When
Yeah.
they catch it out of the pocket, I've had times before, like you said, where my hand got this swollen,
Yeah.
where I couldn't even grip it back because I was doing it wrong. I was doing it wrong.
Yeah. I remember sticking an old sponge in there. I'd go into my mom's kitchen and, Ma, can I get this sponge? She said, for what? I got to play baseball.
Yeah.
And she would go, I guess, mijo, lo que
sure.
sea.
I'm Dominican, right? So do you know Dominicans, they have to have rice every day, right? Right. I would actually have a bucket of rice and dip in, and I would have a whole routine on twirling, squeezing to get my calluses built up with my hand in the string to prevent the pain from that, until my brother taught me how to catch the right way in the pocket there. I was stealing my mom's rice and working the hands and stuff.
I try to do all kind of stuff. And it was always, well, catch it in the pocket. That's the answer.
That's right.
Catch it in the pocket. Catch it in the webbing.
I actually just focus on the pocket because the webbing's going to get torn up too quick, especially with guys and stuff like that. Those little drills of tossing with the little ball or having baseball and you toss another one, after time, kids start getting it. And then they could coach themselves like, oh, that wasn't a pocket catch.
Yeah.
I got to get a pocket catch and stuff like that there. So,
well, the good thing about catching it in the webbing is that sometimes my webbing broke and my dad was like, well, that's your glove. So figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out.
I learned how to relace a glove.
Yeah.
So there was a little league that I was a board member of, and they had about 7 catchers mitts. They were all broken. And we didn't have the money to replace them. We didn't have, and I said, listen, if you give me a month or so, I'll relace them. And I did. Yeah. If you're going to catch it in the web, be ready to relace.
Be ready to be a good expert at relacing. Exactly.
Relacing. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
Now, the throws, you said pickoffs. I remember you talking about the pickoffs. I mean, how would you train somebody to do pickoffs and stuff?
Yeah. Well, the first part is with catching, it starts with the feet. Right? Because if you get good feet on a catcher, you just start building up from there and stuff. So from good feet to solid legs. I mean, I used to have tree trunks and stuff like that just from the squatting and all that other piece. So you start with a lot of the footwork and then you explain to them how to use different footwork in different situations. I'm not one of those coaches that says it has to be this way. The philosophy is you've got a tree, right? You might have a ball player who's 6'5", a catcher. You might have one that's 5'4". You can't teach him exactly all this because what works for the 6'5" guy is going to be different for this 5'6" guy or something like that, right? So how they're going to get to that tree is going to be a little different. So as a coach, you have to show flexibility. So what I do is I teach them a bunch to see what works for their body type. So there's one that most of the major leagues use is called replace. They take their left foot, they move a little, and they replace it with the right foot to throw to second base. The reason they do this is because they're able to get their legs into the throw a lot stronger, right? Or some that are gifted with an arm. We've seen those catchers. They just wake up, and my brother was one of those, could just cannon, right? I mean, I felt like he could throw a ball through a wall.
I'm trying to think of the catcher that I saw that Hanley, he played for the Netherlands in WBC.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember. He's a pitcher.
Oh, man.
Pitcher now.
Oh, man. He was straight arm, throw the guy out at second base.
Hose,
and just keep it rolling. But
you have Benito Santiago that threw from his knees 90% of the time.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, these guys, Benito Santiago was another monster.
If you look at Pena too, he was good at picking off people too, because, we talk about footwork, but his arm slot was always consistent to the spot. So when your arm slot and your bow and arrow exchange is so quick, you don't have to throw 90 something plus in there because your release time is able to get there at the same time. And Pena was one of those. Pudge was just a catcher of perfection. You talk about every component of good footwork, strong leg, strong arm slot, consistent all the time, bow and arrow, release. I mean, all the check marks with Pudge and stuff like that. So he's always fun to watch for me.
Yeah, and he would stand on the railroad tracks. I remember that one where he got bowled over.
Boy,
and he went twice and stood up and took the ball and said, "Ah!"
I know. I remember the show.
That's a beast. That guy.
Yeah, that's a beast. Yeah.
That's a beast.
Yeah, and it's funny too when I coach pro ball. I remember the first time I went I looked at the coach like, why did you bring me here? All these guys are good,
Yeah.
right? But then I start measuring things and I'm like, man, this kid could be better because he's taking almost half a second to exchange the ball. Oh, this guy's footwork are not being consistent, So then but initially you see those arms, you're like, why am I here again?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
Right.
Before it was just you get the ball and then come out, but now they're actually measuring the time.
Yes,
The
correct.
seconds.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do
I'll give
think?
you an example of that,
All
right?
right.
So like if you look at in Major League Baseball, not last year, the year right before COVID, let's say, right? The average pop time was 2.01. All these kids, oh, I throw a 1.7, 1.8. That's in a non-competitive situation usually, right? The average pop time for a catcher was 2.01 in the major leagues. What they showed is if you have what a release time means from when it hits your glove to when it releases your hand. They started measuring it, right? We measure it, right? For that piece. And a person that gets the ball and throws it about, let's say, 0.9, and he's got an arm of either 85 or 90 miles an hour and stuff like that, that comes out to 2.01. And yet he's got a gifted arm, 90, right? But then you could have a kid whose speed is 66 miles an hour, let's say hypothetically, but his release time of when it goes in the glove to release, let's say, is 0.52 or something like that.
Okay.
It comes out to exactly 2.01. So the things that a lot of these kids need to understand is they'll see a kid with a cannon, right, and that person throwing a 2.0, that if they work on their release time until they get their arm stronger, they could actually have the same level of pop time.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So breaking it up into those components gives kids an opportunity to say, okay, I wasn't gifted with this guy's arm, but I can throw just as good at him by improving on my quickness on the exchange.
Wow, that's a big
it's deep.
Sudoku. It's a big Sudoku there.
That's funny. That's funny.
All these numbers and stuff. Like, I'm a straight baseball guy, so
yeah,
sit there and give me numbers all day, and I look at you and I go, yeah, but can you give me his heart? Can you give me a measure of his heart?
Well, no, I mean, catching, there's a part of catching that is hard to measure, and that's toughness.
That's toughness.
Toughness. So what I do is when I run the camps, right, I'll have between 20 to 30. We've had as high as 40, and it's a free camp that I give where we've had some bunch of fortunate to have all state, all region, a bunch of pro and different levels of college level. The first day that we have the workout, Robert, we do 3 hours of blocking. Think about that. 3 hours of different blocking drills. And the reason I do that is because I can't look at you and know your heart.
Yeah.
It would be dishonest of me to see you do one play and go, he's got no heart.
Yeah,
but if I know you come the next week after 3 hours of blocking, he's got something I can't teach. I've had some parents look at me and go, I thought this was a catching camp. All you guys did was 3 hours of blocking. I look at the parent, and just go back to ignore it. But that's my way to try to measure a kid's heart to see, does he really want to be here or not?
For me, blocking drill, you would have drove me nuts and pissed me off. Yeah. And then that's where everything would have changed. I mean, I probably would have been, a couple here, 4, 5, 6. And if one gets through, I'm oh, man. Little by little, I'm going to start losing my mind. Yeah. And I will be a monster after that. I'm going to give you a curveball question. Sure. Right? If you can meet 3 catchers, who would they be?
Yeah, I would say Ernst Howard. I wish I could have seen him play, because just hearing all the stories about him in the Negro League and all that, I would say would be good. Number 2, I would say Johnny Bench, another one that I can't say Pudge because I met him quite a few times. Right? I mean, I remember Pudge after catching a 9-inning game in Arlington, humid as hell. All the guys are checking out, going out to eat dinner or go on their thing. Pudge got on the bike for like an hour, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he goes, I've got 400 kids trying to take my job. I'm not going to let that happen. He had that mentality, right? So I got to meet him, but I would say one that I didn't get to meet also, but I hopefully I get the opportunity, is Buster Posey too, because we had a a guy that lived with us, Ramon Ramirez, that was a shortstop. He just couldn't hit. I mean, you could throw him off a boat and he wouldn't hit the water, right? That's right. So he had a gifted arm, right? So we would have him spinning the ball so he could work on sliders. And he was fortunate enough to make the majors, and he got to pitch it for the World Series and won a World Series with the Giants. And he tells me all the catchers he ever threw to, Buster Posey was the one that made him feel the most relaxed, the most where he doesn't have to think. When he was off his game, Buster Posey would go in there. You're not getting extension. He knew, he was like, man, he was better than my pitching coach, right? Yeah. In that. So I would say those are the three for me that I would like to have met there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, that's amazing. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, usually if they have the Old People's Network, social media, they could find me on Facebook. I make all my lessons free and available there that they could learn from that point of view. So either send me there. I'm also on Instagram. So it's Ray Mota, and I'm on Twitter at RMOTA. So they could reach on any of those there, or contact you and you could give them my info.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. I thank you for being on. I know you probably have to go.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy. I appreciate you being on.
No, thank you, honest. Robert.
This is Robert Rivera with Who's On First, but we're going to let Tyler, my catcher from the Pirates, Tyler Hyman. Tyler, tell them what they're watching.
This is Who's On First with Robert Rivera. Keep swinging.
Thank you.
If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Right? You see it? It's right there. Subscribe, share, like, and don't forget, put that bell on. It'll ding you when I put something else on, all right?